Well, it was around 3 o'clock this afternoon when an explosion rocked a coal mine in Whitesville, West Virginia. Now, for a locator, that's about an hour south of the capital of Charleston. A state mining official in West Virginia now confirms that 6 miners are dead, 21 others still unaccounted for and may be trapped. Rescue workers, we're told, are on the scene at the Upper Big Branch South Mine, which is owned by Massey Energy's Performance Coal Company.
On April 5, 2010, a disaster struck deep within the coal-rich hills of West Virginia. It was a tragedy that not only claimed many lives, but exposed a dark side of the mining industry, where profit was often placed above safety. This is the story of the Upper Big Branch mine disaster. Before we continue, can you please subscribe to support the channel? The Upper Big Branch mine, owned by Massey Energy Company, was situated in Montcold, West Virginia, part of the broader Appalachian region known for its abundant coal reserves. This mine was one of the largest producers of metallurgical coal, a key ingredient in steel production. But behind the mine's high productivity lay a history of safety violations and regulatory infractions. In the years leading up to the disaster, the Upper Big Branch mine had been cited repeatedly for safety issues, including problems with ventilation, dust control, and methane buildup, 3 factors that would play a crucial role in the tragedy that was about to unfold. It was a typical day on April 5, 2010, with 31 miners working in various sections of the Upper Big Branch mine. The first shift had started hours earlier, and the miners were scattered throughout the miles-long network of tunnels. At precisely 3:27 p.m., a massive explosion, roughly 1,000 meters underground, ripped through the mine. The initial blast was caused by the ignition of methane gas, which had accumulated in the mine due to poor ventilation. This explosion triggered a secondary blast when highly combustible coal dust, which was scattered throughout the mine, ignited. The force of the explosions was so powerful that it traveled through over 2 miles of underground tunnels, killing 29 miners almost instantly. The survivors were left disorientated, struggling to find their way through the thick dust and debris that filled the air. The blast even blew out the ventilation system, making escape almost impossible. As the dust settled, communication systems went dark. The outside world was unaware of the scale of the disaster unfolding beneath the ground. It wasn't until 4 p.m. when the first call came into the miners' command center that the extent of the catastrophe began to be realized. Emergency responders were immediately dispatched to the scene, but the situation was dire. Rescue teams, known as mine rescue teams, were deployed to navigate the treacherous underground passages in search of survivors. It was hoped that the miners had gathered in safety chambers, which were protected areas with water, food, and first aid.
If we have any hope of survival and they're in a rescue chamber, they're still okay. That's the sliver of hope we have, and it's a long shot. Everyone's been upfront about that because this was a horrible blast, but if they're there, they're okay.
As hours turned into days, hope began to fade. The mine's unstable conditions, combined with the toxic atmosphere filled with methane and carbon monoxide, made the rescue mission perilous. Rescuers had to drill 3 1,000-foot shafts into the mine just to allow all the methane gas to escape so that a search was possible. Rescuers had to proceed cautiously, knowing that any spark could trigger another deadly explosion. Families of the trapped miners gathered outside, waiting anxiously for any news. By April 9th, the grim reality was confirmed. 29 out of the 31 miners had perished. The Upper Big Branch mine disaster was the worst mining accident in the United States in nearly 4 decades. In the aftermath of the disaster, multiple investigations were launched to determine the cause and assign responsibility.
U.S. Attorney for West Virginia today announced his office stands ready, willing, and able to pursue any criminal violations that a federal investigation may turn up. The probe by federal mining investigators will focus on a methane explosion as the suspected cause. Massey Energy was cited 38 times for ventilation violations at the Upper Big Branch mine in 2009 alone, a sign the mine's owner was failing to remove dangerous gases. The mine racked up 7 more ventilation violations just in the month leading up to this latest catastrophe.
The Mine Safety and Health Administration, MSHA, the state of West Virginia, and independent commissions began scrutinizing every aspect of the Upper Big Branch mine's operations. The investigations painted a damning picture of Massey Energy's practices. The MSHA's investigation revealed that the explosion was preventable. Massey Energy had willfully violated safety regulations to keep production levels high. Key safety measures, such as adequate ventilation, proper dust control, and timely equipment maintenance, had been ignored or bypassed. In the months leading up to the disaster, the mine had received over 50 citations for serious safety violations, but Massey chose to pay fines rather than make the necessary changes. The findings were unequivocal. Massey Energy had created an environment where profit was prioritized over the lives of its workers. The investigation also exposed a culture of fear and intimidation within the company, where employees were discouraged from reporting safety concerns, and those who did were often retaliated against. In December 2011, MSHA released its final report, concluding that unlawful policies and practices at the Upper Big Branch mine directly led to the explosion. Massey Energy was held responsible for the disaster, and a record fine of $10.8 million was imposed, along with $209 million in settlement fees to cover civil penalties and compensation for the victims' families. Today, the Upper Big Branch mine disaster stands as a somber reminder of the human cost of negligence and corporate greed. The site of the explosion has been transformed into a memorial, where the names of the 29 miners are etched into stone, ensuring they are never forgotten. The Upper Big Branch mine disaster was more than just a tragic accident. It was a preventable catastrophe that exposed deep flaws in an industry that powers much of the world.